All right. We are live. I am joined here by my buddy and managing editor of Downtown Rams, Blaine Grisak. How we doing, my man? Welcome again to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jake. Thanks for having me back on. And we're wondering what big news the Rams are going to drop tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, the last time I had Blaine on, basically the Matthew Stafford news broke, and we went from, what was it, 30 something viewers, which is nice. I mean, it's better than what I had on Facebook and all that when I was just doing those days. But um, it went up to like 600, dude. It was.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
wild.
nuts. It was nothing I had ever seen before. I mean, it makes sense, but you know, I just thought it was really cool. So, before we get started, you guys know the drill. Support for the Jake Ellenbogen channel and Downtown Rams is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below the waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming needs. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. And now, of course, my listeners and viewers have an exclusive offer where we can give you out 20% off and free shipping. All you got to do is go over to manscaped.com, go and pick out whatever you want over there. And then at the end, right before checkout, you're going to hit the promo code section. You're either going to put in JKB or DTR. And that is that. So, well, we called it the State of the Rams. That's the name of this video, Offseason Edition. So you and I are going to be discussing for the next hour or so, talking about what could happen going into next week. Talking a little bit about the Les Snead presser, talking a little bit about John Johnson and Leonard Floyd officially going to become free agents with the lack of, franchise tag, and then talking about the restructures and who they could be based upon what Les Snead kind of gave us, because it wasn't a full on reveal. It was more of, as you and I would say, an MCU type of reveal where it's like, yeah, like it's being worked on, but we're gonna keep it in house and we're not gonna name names, which how all of that MCU stuff goes. So, Blaine, let's uh
Yeah.
let's start with Les Snead's presser. What were your thoughts from that? Is there anything that stood out to you? And where do we go from there?
Yeah, I mean, well, like you said, Les Snead is like the MCU reveal. He's like when he, like at the Senior Bowl. He's talking about Jared Goff. Jared Goff's their quarterback right now,
Yeah.
and and yeah, no, that's just kind of his mo. But I think that the thing is, like, the Rams aren't going to, I think, be active initially. I think they're going to. He obviously said restructures are going to be the priority, so I wouldn't expect anybody to really get cut. Like, the Rams aren't going to cut Andrew Whitworth just to save a couple $1,000,000. They're not going to cut Johnny Hecker to save $2 million. Like, it's not going to happen. And the Rams don't have one of those obvious cap casualties that'll save them $8 million. They don't really have that. So I think you're going to see a lot of restructures, and I think you're going to see, fans are going to be checking Twitter constantly next week. But I really want to expect the Rams to be active in that first wave. I think they'll kind of let teams overpay initially and kind of see who falls through the cracks, and then make their move for hopefully a bargain deal.
Yeah, I do kind of see where they're going there. We've seen it before though, and Les Snead during his time has gone out and gotten a Nick Fairley. He's gone out and gotten an Ashawn Robinson, one that maybe you weren't expecting. Didn't tie it to the Rams. Is there any move out there, Blaine, that you're like, oh, Snead's gonna do this. I can feel it, and I don't feel like it's necessarily the best move. I don't feel like it's necessarily the perfect fit, but I just feel like this is Snead. Like, he's going to see this guy and it's going to make him do this. Is there anybody like that stands out to you?
Um, Maybe Jadeveon Clowney. Honestly, I mean, he's a guy that you've brought up, but he's someone that I think would cost a lot. And the Rams obviously have the need at edge, but I mean, Clowney, I think is like he's a high profile name, but I think he's also someone that could. There are like this free agency class is stacked at edge. I mean, you have guys like Von Miller. I mean, you can even throw Von Miller in there after David Clowney. Like I could see Rams going after somebody like Von Miller, a veteran guy who's had success, MVP of the Super Bowl. Like he'd be a perfect culture fit with the Rams, and I think he's a name that not a lot of fans are really thinking about. So I mean, I could see them going that route, but yeah, I those are two names I think like that would surprise me, and you know the Rams probably don't have a like I think a lot of fans looking at like somebody like Romeo Aquara is an edge guy that the Rams could go after, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to go after a big name guy like Clowney and Von Miller and see if they can get him on a one year bargain deal, and you know all us need to say is look at Dante Fowler, look at Leonard Floyd. They played next to Aaron Donald and got paid. So I mean, you can use that for a guy like Clowney who's still kind of in his prime, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to the notion that Jadeveon Clowney is a major upgrade for them. I think he'd be better than having Fowler or Floyd, and I think he's been, he's been needing to kind of revitalize that career. He's dealt with some injuries. Obviously, we know he's a Pro Bowler, and Pro Bowl talent. He's just had an issue lately with the injuries, but we saw him and what he did in the playoffs for the Seahawks. He can play. I mean, it's not like he forgot to play. He's only 28 years old. It's not like he's 35, which I feel like people, they're like, he can't play and the guy's 35 years old. No, he's 28 years old. You're 7 years off and the guy can play. So I do look at that as an option. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm also glad you brought up Von Miller, someone that even I forget is available. And I don't really think he'll be available, to be honest with you. I do think the Broncos are going to bring him back. Vic Fangio knows he's a big portion of that defense, and he spoke on it numerous times that this is somebody that he wants back in the building. Now, what could be interesting is Romeo Aquara. You brought that up, and it's funny because we can associate this, being that this is an entertainment and sports channel now. We can associate, the whole Marvin Jones, all the rumors, right? All the craziness to when, the MCU has those moments where fan theories go nuts and we're like, oh, we're going to see Reed Richards in WandaVision. And then it's like expectation versus reality.
Yeah.
It's somebody that doesn't really matter. So not in the entire sense, but the point I'm making here is that with Marvin Jones, everyone got really excited, including myself, for like that sexy option, Marvin Jones, Matthew Stafford together. But what if it was Matthew Stafford actually not realizing it because he's texting a bunch of his guys to come to LA? And what if he's actually bringing over a helpful hand on the defensive side of the ball in Romeo Aquara? I think that'd be a better move than a Marvin Jones, because I love Marvin Jones. I think he's very underrated and could help the Rams immensely, with the deep ball production. But keep this in mind, Aquara is coming off his best year. He's 26 years old. If you want to sign for a one-year deal, I think already that age is going to keep him in the market, even if he drops off a little bit this year. So you have to keep that in mind. So I think if he signed a 1-year, $10 million deal, I think the Rams win that every time. And they fill a void now, losing Floyd. They add Aquara. I don't know. I kind of feel like that's where they could end up going. Or Clowney. I don't think necessarily both. I think I would prefer Clowney over everyone, but Aquara would be number 2 for me as far as realistic options, because you know who my number 1 would be. It would always be Shaq Barrett, but that's not realistic.
I mean, like I said, Jay, like you brought up a ton of names right there. Like this edge class in free agency
Oh,
is
it's
stacked.
nuts.
Guys are going to fall through. There's not going to be enough money for all of them to take $15 million. You're going to get a bargain deal on somebody like Aquara, who, like, I mean, you said you got Shaq Barrett. I mean, you got Bud Dupree. You got
Dupree.
You got Von Miller. There are a ton of edge guys. Like somebody like Aquara is going to fall through. You're going to sign him to a 1-year, $10 million deal, and hopefully next year the cap goes back up, and you can and at that point you maybe sign him for 3 more years. But
Yeah, that's actually
I mean,
that's a great point right there, because with the cap going up, and we know it's going up because Things are getting better in the country, the vaccines and all of that. But keep this in mind, uh, that TV deal is going to be done, like guaranteed. And they probably could have added more to the cap this year, but they're saving their skin. And I can't really blame them. It's a business, and you didn't really profit a ton last year. You didn't really profit much at all because you had no fans in the stands. So, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you're going to see a lot of short-term deals, and I mean the Rams don't have a ton of cap flexibility this year, so I think you're going to see them kind of get by this year with contracts and wait until next year when you don't have Jared Goff on the books, you don't have Todd Gurley on the books, you don't have Brandon Cooks on the books anymore. Like these are like the Rams will be, if Leonard Floyd goes elsewhere, you're going to have, because he signed technically a 3-year deal or whatever, like the Rams will be paying Leonard Floyd not be playing for them. So you're gonna have these guys that are not playing for you off the books at that point, and you're gonna have more flexibility.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, looking at kind of the secondary, you brought it up before anyone else. Monte Casey could be an option, and I like the fit obviously with Raheem Morris. Keanu Neal is out there as well. Are there secondary pieces out there that you're looking at? And would you, if it came down to it, would you prioritize a better safety over a lesser talented cornerback in this, even though they only have technically 3 cornerbacks on the roster right now in Jalen Ramsey, David Long, and Dante Dion?
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, and it's a good question. I think I probably. I mean, I love DeMonte Casey. I think he'd come in and he tore his Achilles last year, so he's probably going to be a cheaper option. A guy like you signed a 1-year deal and he bets on himself and maybe gets a bigger deal next year. But I think I'd prioritize the depth at like signing a lesser cornerback, just because you don't have any depth at cornerback. Like at safety, you have Jordan Fuller, you have Taylor Rapp, you have Trell Burgess, you have Nick Scott, who actually played really well at the end of last year. You have 4 like really good. I don't say really good safeties, but you have 4 capable safeties.
Yeah.
Bringing in a veteran like Casey would be nice, because like while the Rams have like these safeties that have showed flashes, you don't have that veteran guy that has done it year in and year out. Like I love Jordan Fuller, but he was a rookie last year. He got hurt. I love Trell Burgess, but again, he was hurt, and he just showed. He showed flashes, but
Yeah, Rap gets hurt all the time.
bringing in a veteran, I think would be smart. But I think just because, I mean, Darius Williams is going nowhere, but
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have a lot of depth at corner, and I mean, Troy Hill wasn't great, but he was a solid number 3 corner. So I don't really like David Long. So I think I think you have to try to sign a corner for $2 to $4 million just as a depth piece, because I mean, Jalen Ramsey is Jalen Ramsey. He has one half of the field covered up, but you have the other side, and I mean, Darius Williams will take the other side. But in the slot, what do you have? I mean, you don't really have a number 3 guy that's proven, and so I think bringing in a vet there is more important, just because you don't have the depth at corner that you do at safety.
No, I agree with you. And I look at, like the nickel spot, and first off, we already heard many times that, Burgess is somebody that, they can envision there. KZ could play there, if they brought him in. So, that becomes intriguing. Personally, I agree with you. I'm out on David Long. If they cut him, during this season, I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if they go out, they find some guys in undrafted rookie free agency, and they push Long right off this roster. I mean, to be honest with you, he hasn't really done anything spectacular. And then when he came in, when they needed him, I just felt like he was immediately a liability, which is, we always hear, a cornerback's doing well if their name isn't called. And so, it's like as soon as David Long came in, you knew he was in, because you're like, why are they completing passes on this team? Oh, David Long's in.
I mean, last year was his perfect opportunity to show up and step up. I mean, you had Jalen Ramsey and Troy Hill, and that was it. You cut Nickel Roby-Coleman. Like,
Yeah.
That was David Long's opportunity to come in and play in the slot
year prior.
and show up.
Yeah, Darius Williams was an undrafted free agent.
And instead, you have the undrafted free agent Darius Williams coming in and making plays. Like, it was Darius Williams intercepting Russell Wilson in the wild card round, not David Long. So yeah, I mean, last year I think was his chance, and it was Darius Williams that showed up. So I think bringing in a vet to kind of provide some depth and be your number three is it would be a good move.
I mean, there are guys I like. First off, you can go back to Nickel Roby Coleman. He's an option if they want to go that route. That would be a little odd since they cut him. I don't know if I feel like there is bad blood there. I don't know, like some of the stuff he said when he got to the Eagles or whatever. I don't know, but you have Nickel Roby Coleman. You have Lamarcus Joyner as former Ram names. You have Janoris Jenkins, but for me, guys that intrigue me, I would look at AJ Boye. I would look at even William Jackson the third. If his value has gone down a little bit, and it should have because he's played poorly. Last year was his first poor season, and he's had some injury concerns. If they could get him cheap, I have no doubt he could be a star. And you would have him, Darius Williams, and Jalen Ramsey. I know a lot of people are talking about Desmond King. Can we just talk about how crazy the revelations would be with that? Because I told you during the draft, I was pissed that the Rams drafted John Johnson and didn't take Chris Godwin because I wanted to just go after Desmond King in the 5th round. So the
Yeah,
fact that they would lose John Johnson and I'd be upset about it, and then they get Desmond King to replace him as kind of a downgrade in a sense, that everything would be coming full circle and it would be very
yeah,
odd.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you brought some great names. I think Desmond King is a guy to keep an eye on. He'd be able to stay in LA, be a solid depth piece. I know you don't like him, but how about Patrick Peterson? Big
I
name,
mean,
big
if
name,
he's
big
cheap,
name free
man,
agent. But if he's your number three guy, Malcolm Butler just got cut. Like he'd be a solid nickel corner. Like
Mike Hilton killed it with the
yeah,
Steelers. Cameron Sutton as well. Those are two guys that I think the Steelers should prioritize over bringing back Juju Smith-Schuster, if I'm being honest. So, they're guys where all of a sudden you lose those guys, and fans that aren't in the know see it the next year like, oh, well, why did we take such a step back with our defense? Because you lost two guys that were, big deal in the secondary. And I was worried that was the Rams, but Darius Williams is the most important part of this offseason, and they're bringing him back. I mean, I've told you, everybody I've talked to, it's what did I text you the other day that I heard? He ain't leaving the building.
yeah,
Like in
yeah,
all
yeah.
caps, he ain't leaving the building. So if anybody's worried about Darius Williams, he's not leaving the building. So I mean, yeah, there are options out there for sure, and I keep going back to that position, the safety position, thinking, you know, is John Johnson a guy that they were even considering because he was John Johnson, how much he meant to the team, or do they actually value that position despite spending 3 picks on safeties over the last 2 drafts? That is the question I can't wait to see answered because, to be honest with you, I think they're fine because of their versatility. Plus, we heard it last year. Jalen Ramsey was really interested in also playing some safety. So, what they could do, and because of that versatility, it allows them to go out and maybe overload on corners that can, be tweeners in between, safety and corner. So you go up again, you get a KZ, you get a Desmond King, and then you just play him wherever the hell you want. And to me, I honestly think that's pretty appealing, and also becomes really hard to go up against as an offense because you don't know who's going to play where.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've heard about it a little bit from this offseason. You know, Joe Barry leaving and becoming a defensive coordinator. Like teams are trying to leaving, and you have teams that want to copy what Brandon Staley did last year, and
Yeah.
saying that was the toughest defense to prepare for, and a lot of that was because what the Rams were able to do in the secondary. They were able to put guys basically wherever they wanted to and have success doing it.
Yeah, it's an important thing to have. When you have guys that you can throw all over the place, and keep in mind, I mentioned guys that aren't even on the roster. Terrell Burgess can do that.
Yeah.
So I think that that's something. I also think there's the possibility Troy Hill comes back, and I was telling you that I was hearing that that's something that could end up happening. They like Troy Hill a lot. In a perfect world, I think the Rams are really going to run it back. I think, if the salary cap was different, John Johnson stays. They might probably still lose Leonard Floyd because no one can tell me otherwise until he goes to another team that he's not signing with the Chargers. I just think it's a perfect fit. I think he's exactly what Staley wants. He's going to want to stick with Staley. It was his best season with Staley as a defense coordinator, so I don't see him staying. But I feel like in a perfect world, if you had just all the cap and everything and things were going up the way they were naturally before COVID, the Rams bring back John Johnson. They bring back Troy Hill. They bring back everybody except for, maybe Leonard Floyd, who probably would have been outbid for, but I think they would have made the reach out there. As far as guys like Samson Ebukam, I think he'd be gone. But I'm really curious to see the linebackers because it seems like the Rams didn't really value linebackers as much with Brandon Staley, but what's not being talked about is that while they're going to run a similar scheme, Raheem Morris is going to miss having Deion Jones on that defense. And I honestly will say this. Would not be surprised if the Rams draft a linebacker pretty high in this draft. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and get a guy like a Jayon Brown. Matt Milano would have been an intriguing fit, but he signed today with the Bills. Good for him. Fifth round pick out of Boston College, making some big money, $11 million per year. But I look at a guy like Jayon Brown, maybe even Denzel Perryman, a guy that can fly around the field, as somebody that I mean, if we're being honest, the perfect fit for Raheem Morris, if he misses a guy like Deion Jones, that could be available is probably Jabril Cox, the linebacker, formerly of North Dakota State, transferred to LSU, has kind of those same. I would imagine he's going to test very similar, but he has those kind of same instincts and the lateral ability and what he can do in coverage, but also his tackling ability. I just think they're going to end up going in that direction in some facet. I don't know where they'd be able to get Jabril Cox, and I'm not saying they necessarily will, but I do think it raises the question. Brandon Staley didn't value linebackers, but let's just pump the brakes before we assume every defensive coordinator now no longer values linebackers. And also let's pump the brakes before we say that Les Snead doesn't value linebackers, because I really feel like last year they were really just catering to what Brandon Staley had. And I feel like that was the right move because they had a rookie defensive coordinator. They wanted to be like, all right, you tell us what you want and we'll do it. Remember him coming out and saying, that the archetypes that he wanted with the longer arm defensive the edge defenders. You go out and get Terrell Lewis, you go out and get Leonard Floyd, both 6'6", 250-pound guys with long wingspan. That's kind of where I'm leaning. Like, what if his archetype is having that type of linebacker?
I see your point, and I don't totally disagree with it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and get one stable linebacker and you still have Michael Kaiser, you still have Troy Reeder, you still have Traven Howard. But I don't know if I see them really spending big on one in free agency. I don't know if I really see one drafting one at 57, even if somebody like Dylan Moses or Jabril Cox is there, just because. Like, I mean, you can go back to Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips didn't necessarily value linebackers either. You had an undrafted free agent, Corey Littleton, stepping up and flourishing in that defensive system, and then you don't pay Littleton, and you get by with guys like Micah Kaiser, Troy Reeder, and Kenny Young filling in. And don't get me wrong, like I don't think that those guys are the answers, and I don't think the Rams shouldn't not do something at linebacker, because you had teams like the 49ers using Deebo Samuel and burning the Rams because you didn't have that sideline to sideline speed. You just didn't have it. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Rams did get one guy to kind of fill a role at linebacker. But I think, after drafting Alec Ogletree at the end of the first round was that 2014, and then signing him to a big contract and that not working out, and him having a really much forgettable game against the Falcons in 2017.
Oh God!
I kind of think that soured Les Snead's mouth a little bit on linebackers, or spending a lot of money on linebackers. I guess, and understanding that you have these guys, these undrafted guys that you've been able to develop and move through the system. Um, that I kind of think on, and then last year, they drafted Clay Johnson in the seventh round. I mean, that didn't work out, obviously, but I think it just kind of shows that that's kind of where they want to target linebackers. They don't necessarily want to take one with their premier picks.
No, I get that. I mean, and there's not a ton in this free agency class. It's actually a pretty down inside linebacker driven class. It's more edge defenders, receivers, aplenty, and running backs. I mean, if you if you need a starting running back, this is the free agency for you. Let's see. You have Aaron Jones, you have Chris Carson, you have Kenyon Drake. If you think Todd Gurley can play in this league, Todd Gurley, you know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of guys out there, but I feel like linebacker, like Jayon Brown, is the first name that comes to mind, and I like him, but I like him as a two. I don't feel like he's like a number one guy you have to bring in. But I also make the argument for linebacker because I do think they need to bring in somebody if they're losing the signal caller in John Johnson. I think he was the leader of that defense, and people forget he was the most valuable safety the Rams have had in maybe 20 years because he had that role of being that leader. Because if you look before, it wasn't, they had a James Laurinaitis or they had, a London Fletcher. It was, they didn't have this situation where there was no true like linebacker to take over. And as much as I love Corey Littleton, Littleton was a lead by example guy. He wasn't raw like, a James Laurinaitis or a London Fletcher. So I do wonder if they do go out and they get my guy out of Michigan in the third round. He'd be a great fit. Cameron McGrone. I feel like he can do it all. He's not as athletic as Jabril Cox, but he's very athletic. He'd be the most athletic linebacker day one on the Rams. I had him mocked to the Rams in the third round. They're going to have 2 third-round picks. And, one of those is going to be before the Niners have 2. So I'm hoping if they want McGrone, they pick him right before the Niners have those 2 picks back to back. Because I don't trust the Niners, but I think he'd be a really good fit. And Garrett Wallow out of TCU would also be somebody that intrigues me. So this is just a draft Blaine where I'm like, there's so many good linebackers, and I don't like it's being overshadowed because you have the big 4 quarterbacks, you have the insane top notch running backs, and guys like Najee Harris and Javonte Williams, and some people would say Travis Etienne, and then you have the receivers, and the receivers are massive. But what I think is being lost on this, and of course offensive tackle thing that's being lost in this draft, is that you have a lot of linebackers if you want to go out and pursue that. And so I do feel as though they'll target one in the third. I think in the second round, I've said this, I think they're going Eskridge. And I don't even know if it's the best move, but I feel like that's the move that they'll do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just start from the beginning. Like, as far as the signal callers go, it's like I don't think you draft a rookie linebacker like Cox or the kid from Michigan. I don't think you draft him and say, hey, here's the defense, learn it, and you're our signal caller. Like I think here's kind of, and it's been John Johnson the last 2 years, and I think they have a lot of confidence in Jordan Fuller, and that's not to say that Jordan Fuller is going to call the defense. I think this is one of those things where this is why I like Casey with the Rams. You bring in Casey, he has the experience with Raheem Morris. You sign him to a 1-year deal. He's kind of helps implement the system, and then you have Jordan Fuller take over next year and be that signal caller and captain of the defense. I mean, Fuller was a captain at Ohio State. He was two-time captain at Ohio State. He has those leadership qualities that the Rams look for at safety. So I think if he grows this year behind a veteran safety like Casey, I think that would be important. And then as far as that pick, and as far as the pick at 57, I do think that I think it's going to be wide receiver or edge. I think they could go. I think Eskridge is definitely in the conversation. They met with him. They obviously like him. He fits exactly what they want to do. Jordan Smith from UAB would be an amazing pick. I think.
So my two favorite guys.
I love him. And then I think there are also other options there like Daz Newsome, Dynami Brown. I think would be an option there too. They met with Demetric Felton. There are a ton of guys there. This isn't a great edge class. So if you miss out, if you
No,
don't sign a guy, if you don't sign a Leonard Floyd back, or you miss out on a guy like Romy Aguara, you're going to have to address that edge position early because it's not going to be there late. So you're going to have to go after somebody
totally
like
agree.
maybe like Quincy Roche or Jordan Smith. They're at 57. Like that's going to have to be the option. But if you do get a guy like Aguara, it kind of opens things up at wide receiver to get that deep threat. And at that point, I think the only thing is that you have to kind of trust that McVay's going to play a rookie on his offense, which isn't like, and then until late in the year last year with Cam Akers, it's not something that McVay has really done.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: I wouldn't even rule out them picking a running back. To be honest with you, the way this team is, I mean, I would not rule it out, and I think that it was intriguing.
Are you saying like in general or at 57?
No, no, God, oh my, if they do that, no.
If they take Chuba Hubbard at 57 and just have like these three running
Are you
backs
trying
of
to kill me right now?
oh my gosh,
I'm not a
I'm
big
dying.
fan of Chuba Hubbard, to be honest with you. I think he's my 14th running back. I would cry. I would be in literal tears on draft day in front of everybody on live.
Yeah.
Raw emotion. But no, I actually.
All right. Let's say that they take Trey Sermon at 57.
Oh well, now
No,
you're
yeah.
now you're flirting with
No,
me
but
there.
I kind of agree though. Like I think I wouldn't be surprised if they take a running back in the 7th round. Like you need somebody
Well, here's one
like
I'll say.
even like I wouldn't be surprised if I doubt Malcolm Brown, maybe Malcolm Brown have a market, but if Malcolm Brown doesn't have a market, I wouldn't rule out him returning either.
No, no, no. But there's two things that intrigue me. First thing, Les Snead coming out and naming certain guys that are standing out, right? Certain guys that
Yeah,
have made strides from year one to year two. One of the guys he mentions is my guy X-Man, Xavier Jones.
Xavier Jones. Yeah.
So, you have X-Man, he said the defensive line was standing out, and then there was another guy he said was standing out as well. But I don't remember which. I think it was Eric Banks. But
Okay.
yeah, that's a guy I'm definitely looking out for because he
Oh,
was
and
coached by Henderson.
just talking about those bottom roster guys. I think just kind of going back to linebacker. I think one guy to keep an eye out on, and he's my guy, Jake. You know who I'm going to be talking about here. Christian Roseboom.
Mm.
Like he's been the guy that was on the practice squad all last year. He's a guy that the Athletics Jordan Rodriguez really talked up and has said that they really like him. I wouldn't be I wouldn't be surprised if he's someone that they give a legit shot at linebacker this year.
Yeah, they really do like him, and Jordan Rodriguez come out and said many times that he's waiting in the wings. So, I mean, I'm a fan of his. I wouldn't mind him getting an opportunity. I mean, I think you're gonna have to be creative with with the lack of cap space this year, and part of that would be relying on some guys maybe you didn't rely last year. What if the twist in all this deep threat, is actually Bryson Hopkins, which I also want to point out because that big body thing. You saw that going around today. I know you did. The big bodied receiver, right?
Yeah.
They didn't just listen to me because I've been shouting from the rooftops they need a big body, deep threat like DK Metcalf for years. But I feel like Jordan was onto something because I saw Jordan mention in a thread, one of the Twitter threads, that she felt they were talking about Bryson Hopkins, which I can't even tell you how excited that makes me. So I'm saying this. I think they'll go with what they have in-house, and I think they'll add a, Demetric Felton, a Dwayne Eskridge, Jalen Darden type of receiver that can just stretch the field. He adds speed.
And they went with that the Amir Smith Marset from Iowa. That same small shifty wide receiver that he can run the jet sweeps. He can be a gadget guy, but can also stretch the defense deep.
The cool thing was with Amir Smith Marset, because I actually had him in my first mock draft I did on this channel. And you all that are listening probably know exactly who I'm talking about. He's actually, I think he's 6'1", 6'2", so he can go up and unlike Josh Reynolds, He has ball skills, will go up
Yeah.
and box defenders out. He will go up and try to make that play. He runs very gracefully, so you could literally use him all over the field. Kind of reminds me of what everyone thought Cordell Patterson was going to be. So, take that for what you will, but I think he'd be a good option as well. I think right now I'm so sold on Eskridge because I just feel like Eskridge has speed that no one else has. Like you could see
Yeah.
guys that have 4.3, but when he said he ran a 4.2, like I see it on film. Like he just you don't just catch a trust me, we've seen all the bubble screens on planet Earth with Sean McVay's offense. You don't just
Yeah.
catch a bubble screen and then just end up 20 yards down the field in a blink of an
Yeah.
eye. That is what Eskridge can do. Eskridge can go over the top. I like his balance. I like his, he can run right through the contact. And this dude literally will jump on top of people and go up and high point the football at 5'9". So it's like, I feel like this guy really just, he has it all. And it's like everyone wants to say he's Tavon Austin that doesn't like him.
I was
But
literally just going to bring up that point because like when you bring up guys like Demetric Felton and Dwayne Eskridge, you immediately get the I don't want another Tavon Austin on this team. I don't want this five. Like these guys are so much better and developed at wide receiver than Tavon Austin ever was. Like Tavon Austin never developed as a wide receiver. He never developed those route running capabilities. Like he had concentration issues. Like these guys are so much better than Tavon Austin. It's not even like comparing them to Tavon Austin is an insult,
I
honestly.
agree. And it's almost like, when you scout the
Like
helmet.
sure they can run the jet sweep. Sure, like they like do the gadget stuff, but that's not only who they are. Like that's all Tavon Austin could do because he wasn't a receiver. Like
Yeah, really what it is you go out and get Eskridge. You get Eskridge because you see the league is changing and you see guys like Tyreek Hill are absolute nightmare threats and you're hoping you're getting a Tyreek Hill. And before people laugh at you, Tyreek Hill went in the middle of the draft. So it's like, it's not unheard of to find a guy who's a superstar in the middle of the draft or the end of the draft or in the second round of the first. Like, they come all over the place. And so I feel like with Eskridge, you have that desire to go up and high point the football at 5'9". You have that, aggressiveness, but also you can win high and low. You can go over the top or you can win, a simple, just think about this. A quick slant to him could be a touchdown. Like he's that fast.
yeah,
A bubble screen to him could be a touchdown. You could use him out of the backfield. What does that do? Well, imagine putting him in the backfield, with Cam Akers in like a split back formation and then having one of them motion out. And then, oh, by the way, you have Henderson on the other side of the field. They can do all sorts of wacky stuff. And I honestly cannot wait because I feel like this is where they're trending. If they want, they could go out and grab a John Ross or a Marvin Hall or a Khalif Raymond that will give you kind of that same value. But I feel like the only one that matches that speed is John Ross.
yeah. And I mean the thing with John Ross too is he has that that I don't want to say Zach Taylor's scheme is Sean McVay's scheme, but they coach together. So I think Ross would at least have some familiarity with it. And I mean, people knock on John Ross, but before he got hurt, he was like 2 years ago, he was on pace for 1,000 yards. Like
Yeah.
he was doing really well, and he's dealing with injuries, and they put him on IR last year when he probably
They
he's
kept
one of those
making him
guys
a
that
healthy scratch.
Yeah, they had to make him a healthy scratch and just threw him on IR. Like it's
Yeah,
just
they just gave up on him. And to be honest with you, I wasn't surprised because it wasn't a Zach Taylor pick. There was nothing
yeah.
connecting him. And the only thing that was connecting, Zach Taylor to AJ Green was how much they were paying AJ Green. So he played. So you have, on one hand, you have a first rounder that isn't getting any playing time because he wasn't picked by you. Then you have another where you just drafted T. Higgins. You have Tyler Boyd, who you just paid long term. You have AJ Green, who you're paying. And I don't know why, they were obsessed with Alex Erickson. And they got really good value in a guy that you and I liked in the draft, Auden Tate. So
Yeah.
they were loaded, and I just think it's funny how quickly we just write these guys off. Like, look how quickly people wrote off Robert Woods when I was telling you they need to go out and sign Robert Woods. I was saying it over and over and over again. I'm like, $8 million a year, that is a bargain, and that's exactly what they signed him for. So, I just think with these guys with the receiver position, it can be anything from, a quarterback not being on the same page, a scheme, a coach not giving a guy an opportunity. I mean, anything. And so that's why guys like Marvin Jones, they flourish when they go to, the Lions. Let's look at, an older example with Laurent Robinson going from the hapless Rams offense with the dinks and dunks and Sam Bradford's Pat Shermer offense. Then he goes to the Cowboys and he's just ripping, with Tony Romo. So, that's what I'll say on
Don't
that.
have to don't have to remind me, Jake.
I'm excited for Funchess with Rodgers. I'll say that too, because I feel like everyone wrote him off. He just came back, like he re-signed or whatever. He opted out last year.
Yeah.
Actually, no, he opted out, but he also got hurt. So I'm interested with him. There are guys around the league where I'm like, if you just put him in a different situation, things would be different. Like, and I feel like I kind of feel that way with Kendrick Bourne. I feel like Bourne has been in this like possession role with the 49ers. Could he be a 1? No, but could he be a 2? I think so. So there are guys around the
And
league and they're all available. And Corey Davis, by the way, is another one where we saw him flourish this past year with AJ Brown. I think he'll be even better moving forward. I think he needed this type of season. I think he needed every type of season. He needed to go through the hardship of getting hurt right before the draft. If you remember, it was like a pre-draft injury. It was
yeah.
awful. But he still went in the top 5 because Tennessee knew his value. So I look at these receivers and they're all in this class. They have opportunities. And I'll even say this, Sammy Watkins, it might want to consider going back to the Rams if they're interested, because I mean, he needs to get as far away from Kansas City as he can. I know he won a Super Bowl there, but it's like they didn't really use him very often. He signed for a lot of money, and it's like there are guys like that just like they don't. I don't know. Their usage is questionable.
Yeah, where I am with the Rams wide receivers, and it's odd because like you have Robert Woods, you have Cooper Kupp, and those are obviously your 1A, 1B guys. Those are the guys that are always on the field. I think with the third guy though, like in 2017, 2018, you had Sammy Watkins, you had Watkins, Kupp, and Woods is the three guys that were always on the field. The next year, instead of Watkins, you had Cooks. But the last 2 years, the Rams have moved so much to 12 personnel, where the need for having 3 wide receivers just isn't as large, I guess, or having 3 very capable wide receivers isn't as large. You can have guys like Van Jefferson. You can sign a guy like John Ross, who's he's probably not number 2, but he can be capable number 3. And same with like a guy like Eskridge. He maybe as a rookie he's not going to be number 2 right away, but he can be number 3. You need that third guy to play a specific role and flourish in that type of role, because I don't see the Rams coming out with, just because they haven't. McVay has moved so much to more 12 personnel scheme, or just you need that third guy that can just get deep and give the offense a different element, rather than having him being able to do everything like they have in the past with Watkins and Cooks.
Yeah, and I
But
think
that's why I don't think they go out and spend $11 million on a Marvin Jones, or $8 million on Marvin Jones.
no, I don't see that.
As much as I would love them to go out and get a Corey Davis or Nelson Aguilar, I don't really see that either. I see them spending low on that position and having those guys play a role and flourish in that role.
I think that they would spend, and stick with me here because it's kind of hard to explain, but I think they would spend a top dollar like free agent like pick on a receiver. But I don't think that they would spend top dollar on a receiver, if that makes sense. So I think that they would go out and get a receiver in the second or third. I
Yeah.
don't think that they would sign one for the 14 million threshold. I don't think they would go out and get a Juju. I don't think they'd go out and get any of those guys. Like when people keep asking me, "Hey, what about Kenny Galladay?" Yeah, that'd be great. Except one, he's never healthy. I think that's a serious issue. I loved him coming out of Northern Illinois, I believe. I loved him, and he was in my top 10 receivers. True sleeper. Ends up going in the 3rd round, and I was like, wow. So everybody seemed to be really behind on him, and apparently the NFL was ahead of him. But anyway, I like Kenny Galladay. I just don't like the $18 million price tag that he literally turned down. What is it going to take to sign that guy? So, no. Second, he's always hurt. And third, like you said, I'm thinking the Marvin Jones, not the Marvin Jones, Marvin Hall. And by the way, if the Rams sign any of those top guys, I'm not going to complain. But I just don't see it happening. So I think it's going to be like a Marvin Hall, a Khalif Raymond, a John Ross. I think those guys are the most. If you're asking me today, the Rams could realistically sign two former Cincinnati Bengals. They could sign John Ross and they could sign Carl Lawson, and I wouldn't be shocked because I do think that there's that connection there. Sean McVay, Zach Taylor. These coaches talk, and I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Taylor said, "Look, John Ross can play." The issue is that we had this situation and we couldn't get him reps. But yeah, if you're looking for a deep threat, then absolutely that's your guy. Like coaches have these conversations, and so then I look at Carl Lawson, and I think that he could help on the edge, of course, and I think that he's going to be undervalued a little bit because I still feel like he can. And another guy from the Ravens, Tyus Bowser. I think Bowser on the Rams defense would be really good. So there's a lot of guys in free agency. Looking at the Rams, who do you think they bring back aside from Darius Williams? Because I'm kind of feeling like Austin Blythe will be back, and he'll sign a 2-year deal. They will move on from him. If they move on from Stafford, they'll both move on. I think they're going to draft a center. I look at Kendrick Green out of Illinois in the 3rd, 4th round, around that. But I don't think they... All of a sudden, I've kind of changed my tune. I feel like I do this a lot with the big uglies every year, Blaine. You know this. I fall in love with, early on, I fell in love with Creed Humphrey. And it's not like I'm going to complain if the Rams get Creed Humphrey. But I feel like as the draft progresses, the pre-draft and all of this, and I learn more information, I watch more film, there are other guys that aren't as good right now, but I think have better value that I kind of fall. So I like Kendrick Green in the 4th more than I like Creed Humphrey at 57, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense, and I've been saying it for a month now. Like, I wrote an article about this on Downtown Rams. Austin Blythe is the most important, arguably the most important free agent for the Rams to bring back because, like, you just traded not 1 first-round pick, not 2 first-round picks. You traded your 2 first-round picks plus your 26-year-old quarterback for a 33-year-old Matthew Stafford,
and a 3rd-round pick,
and a 3rd-round pick for Matthew Stafford,
which I love.
You're going to put, it's a great move, but you're going to put a rookie at center and expect Matthew Stafford to have a clean pocket?
Oh, hell no!
Exactly. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, bring back Austin Blythe for 2 years. I fully expect them to draft someone. Like, please draft Quinn Miners. Please draft somebody in the 3rd round with the 101st overall pick or at 103. Like, do that, but you're not going to draft a guy outside the top 100 and say, "Oh, yep, here you go, start at center." You're now in charge of calling out protections and protecting our franchise quarterback that we've paid to get us over the top and win us the championship. Like, right now, for me, consistency and stability on the offensive line is the most important thing. And then, next year, Andrew Whitworth could retire, so you've developed a guy like Joe Noteboom to take over there eventually, or you draft someone like Dylan Raduns at 57 and have him sit this year, and then have him take over at left tackle. Like, that's what the Rams need to do. You're not going to draft somebody this year and they're not blowing up half the offensive line and expecting rookies to take over. It's not. But like you're not winning a Super Bowl that way. It's not happening. Like you have to develop these guys and work them in. And I think that's the way. I think that's the way they go. And Austin Blythe could have a market, but this is a system that he's flourished in. They have a new offensive line coach, but I think that's also why you bring back Austin Blythe, so that this new offensive line coach can kind of work his way into this system and slowly kind of develop what he wants or implement what he wants to do. So I think you bring in a Blythe to be a placeholder and have and then you draft a center that your new offensive line coach wants and develop him and then work him in.
No, I agree with you. And, I think it does help that the Rams offense hasn't been the best lately. I don't think that they're going to get, poached like the way like Roger Saffold went for a lot of money. Like, I don't think, like, here's the thing. The Rams offense actually has been a lot better than people give them credit for. They've struggled in the red zone. They were like, for a while, they were top 5 in offensive total yards. The problem is that they struggled in the red zone. The problem is Jared Goff, really made the offensive line look worse than they truly were, just because of his poor pocket presence and holding on the ball way too long. And so I think guys like Austin Blythe, you might be able to get away with. Where, I will say this: part of me wishes Austin Corbett was a free agent this year because they could get a bargain for him. I feel like next year with Stafford, because I think Stafford's going to make the line look better. Guys like Corbett, guys like, it's almost the worst timing to have all these guys that are going to be free agents when I feel like people are going to see this offensive line actually was never that bad. And Goff's pocket presence has really manipulated everyone to think he has no offensive line. Well, no, his footwork is crappy. His elusiveness in the pocket is non-existent. His awareness in the pocket, and because of that, you can only hold blocks for so long. So I feel like now Stafford is going to look so good in this offensive line. We're never going to hear any issues. And now, with all these guys becoming free agents next year, it's going to hurt the Rams because I don't think they're going to be able to bring back all those guys.
Yeah, and I'm just I agree with you. Like next year will be interesting, and I think
Mm.
that's why you do need to draft a guy or two this year. But one question I do want to ask you, like
Yeah.
just like in the case that Austin Blythe doesn't come back, and you do have the hole at center. 2 years ago, Leslie did trade for Austin Corbett. Corbett was drafted by the Browns as a center. He's came to the Rams and played fantastic at guard.
Yeah.
Is he
That's where I'm
somebody that
going.
is he somebody that you would move to center? Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I
yeah,
love Corbett. I've gone on record saying I love Corbett. I watched him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was awesome at guard. Thought he played well at center. When they moved him at tackle, he struggled. So that's all anybody wanted to tweet about. It was like, wow, Austin Corbett's having a horrible day at the Senior Bowl today. I'm like, what are you watching? Did you miss when he had the guard reps? He was awesome. It's like, look, he's not a tackle. And I'm king offensive tackle, don't move to guard. I will
yeah.
literally be the fan. I will be the owner of that fan club. Stop moving capable tackles to guard. But he's not a tackle. He's not. And that's fine. So the Rams have him at guard. He does well. And now you move him to center if you lose Blythe. It opens, actually is better if they lose Blythe if Corbett can do exactly what Blythe did or better. Because Corbett has more long term upside. They don't have to spend money. And you get to see guys like a Tremaine Ankrum, like a Bobby Evans, like a Joseph Noteboom, David Edwards, all those guys competing for a spot on that offensive line. One extra spot opens up now because Corbett moves over to center. And I think a guy like Tremaine Ankrum, that is actually the guy I forgot to mention. That's the guy Lesnine mentioned by name. So I think Tremaine Ankrum, no one wants to admit this, I think he's surpassed the majority of their offensive linemen down the road. I think he's actually surpassed them. I think they like him so much that Tremaine Ankrum will end up starting for this team, if not next year, for the next 3 years.
That's I think they like him too. And I like you heard it right after they drafted him. Like this was a guy that Dabo Swinney really talked up. Like you saw it. It was either on the Rams Twitter page or on Hard Knocks or something, but you saw it.
Yeah.
There was a clip of Ankrum. He was working with Andrew Whitworth, I believe, wasn't he? Did you?
Yeah, he
I think I saw a clip where like he's working one on one with Andrew Whitworth. Like this is a guy that's soaking up all this information, and he's a guy that like I was talking about like Roseboom earlier. I think he's a guy that people have kind of forgotten about, and because they're not that. I mean, Ankrum was drafted in the 7th round. Roseboom went undrafted. These guys that people kind of have written off as guys that are on the bottom of the roster that could maybe step up into bigger roles.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think, you know, Tremaine Ankrum, before you're like, oh, he's a 7th rounder, we don't touch that. Well, look, guys make it all over, as I said, all over the draft. Guys make it. And my argument for Tremaine Ankrum, and I'm not all about, production, in college. I'm not about college stats necessarily. But this guy literally fell to the 7th round because he's 6'2". That's literally the reason.
Yeah.
Like, he fell because he's not tall. Okay.
I mean, Aaron Donald fell to 13 because he also wasn't tall and wasn't big.
So, yeah. So, like, have we not learned anything? Size is not a skill, as, my guy Emery Hunt always says. I don't get it. I mean, when you watch the film, it's obvious he's going to be a good offensive lineman. He could play guard, he could play tackle. But what I am more interested in is the fact that he played those tough games at Clemson, and no moment is going to overwhelm him. I've talked to this guy twice. I met him at the Senior Bowl, and then we did a Zoom live interview with him, which I will re-release on this channel, I think this week. I think it makes a lot of sense after Les Snead talked him up. Got to bring him back. So the thing with Tremaine Ankrum is that he played in all these huge games in college because Clemson's a powerhouse. So he was going up against, Chase Young and holding his own. And I don't think anybody really talks about that. I don't think they give him enough credit. And so I look at a guy like David Edwards, who I thought was a great pick when they got him. I look at a guy like Joseph Noteboom and Bobby Evans, and I'm thinking, not all of these guys can start. But I'm thinking you might have, they might be able to cut a deal with Joseph Noteboom, be like, hey, you take less money for us, you're going to take over for the big guy, Andrew Whitworth. And with Bobby Evans, he might say, I'm going to take less money because I want to take over for Rob Havenstein. So then you might have those guys out of the way. And then at guard, you have Tremaine Ankrum. And then at the other, you have the center position, you have Austin Corbett. And then maybe you bring back Edwards. Who knows where that goes? But the Rams have done a nice job of setting themselves up for the future. And I do think the offensive line is developing, unlike what some people think. And I do think that we'll see that more. I'm also interested in seeing Chandler Brewer. This is somebody that I really liked. UDFA. He didn't get to play last year because he had leukemia. So he was a high risk player. With COVID, he had to opt out. He's going to come back this year. So I wouldn't rule him out either. I think it's an interesting, and they also, for whatever reason, love Coleman Shelton, and Jamil Demby's also still there. So they have all sorts of offensive linemen. I think they'll draft.
Do they actually still have Jamil Demby?
They do.
Oh my gosh! Please get him off the roster.
He's surprising me because when I saw him, at the Senior Bowl, he stood out, and I thought he'd be a lot better than what he's been. Then again, he's barely played since. So, but I will say that I think Ankrum can also play tackle, and if you look on the depth chart, he's Andrew Whitworth backup. And one thing that Jordan pointed out is that he actually takes the snaps at left tackle when Andrew Whitworth is resting. So that is really interesting.
Yeah, I like that. That is actually interesting. Like, what if we're talking up Joseph Noteboom and or like Dylan Radunz is like the if I'm mistaken, like as the heir to Andrew Whitworth, and here we're just kind of overlooking Tremaine Ankrum, and he's actually the guy at left tackle.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has like the same size as Isaiah Wynn, which is why I just laugh at like Isaiah Wynn. Like, people were like, I'm not drafting Isaiah Wynn because he's a guard. I'm not gonna. Oh, he's a tackle, bro. Like he played at Georgia. He played against. Why does no one count that? Like, offensive linemen that went against premier edge talent in college are gonna be going against premier edge talent in the NFL all the time. And if they did well, if they held their own, I'm not talking about just held their own, if they dominated or they just played well, like, that translates, does it not? I mean, unless a guy just forgets how to play like Cam Irving, I will never understand what happened to Cam Irving. That dude looked very can't miss as a prospect coming out of Florida State, and I don't know what happened to him. But not everybody is like Cam Irving. Not everybody is like a Greg Robinson. And so I look and I'm like, well, you have to imagine that, Tremaine Ankrum is, I mean, he shut down, or not, we won't say shut down, but he held Chase Young in check. Chase Young is the reigning defensive rookie of the year. Could win a defensive player of the year award down the line. He's phenomenal. He's a man child. So one would have to make the argument that he could also do that in the NFL, right? He didn't just forget how to play tackle.
You would think that would be the assumption, but yeah, I mean,
I love the over analysis though. He's 6'2".
We have to move him to guard though because he's a he was a college tackle, so now he has to play guard.
Yeah. Ugh. I can't, like. It's like
a couple was it 2 years ago that the Bengals took Jonah Williams. I think Jonah Williams got a ton of flack pre-draft because he had short arms, and I think he was hurt. Was it last year? 2 years ago? He was hurt, but then he did take some snaps to tackle, and what you saw of him, there's a reason why he was a dominant college left tackle.
The whole he doesn't have long arms. Okay, you know who has long arms? I'll tell you, has long arms. Julian Davenport. Do you remember him? Bucknell.
Yeah.
You can go get him in free agency for the veteran minimum.
Did Greg Robinson have long arms?
Yeah. Enough with the long arms. Can you play the damn game? I'm done drafting people because they look like aliens. Do you play like an alien? No, then I don't care. I'm not interested. It's funny how it became that with the draft, where it's like, oh, well, he's got this long wingspan. Okay, does he have any other moves in his arsenal besides having a long wingspan? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't. And edge defenders, they get this pass because they have these long arms. It's like, and then, the poor Chris Rump or whatever from Duke, who's he's 6'2", and he has T-Rex arms, but the dude just works his tail off. That dude's the guy that doesn't get anything. It's I don't know. I'm just saying, when I look at the length and stuff, that's nice. And I like that when they can play football. But I don't give a damn if they can't play football. And I will say this right now. I know for a guy like you mentioned earlier, Jordan Smith. Jordan Smith can play football. He's got a spin move that is very impressive to me. He can, his bend is nuts, and he can run under a table, so to speak. So I really do like him, but it's not just anybody with extreme length that I liked. And I know I'm probably contradicting myself because I had the Rams going out and getting Joshua Kane-Doe from Florida State, who's a project. He's 6'7", 247, but I also saw some potential. I'm not just going to draft a guy because of his measurables without watching film. So I just think the whole, he's 6'2". I don't give a rip about that. I'm so over that. With quarterbacks too. Kyler Murray showed you can be 5'8" and play this league. So just come on now.
Yeah, exactly.
Tariq Cohen's 5'5", and I told you over and over again this guy was going to be like a video game. And sure enough,
if you can play, if you can play, you can play. It's just you and I were talking about this the other day. People using, Trey Lance played at North Dakota State. Look at his level of competition. No, that's not a legit reason why somebody's not good. No, do not give me that. If you can play, you can play. Quinn Miners played at the Division III level, and he's dominating guys at the Senior Bowl.
That's so.
No,
I love that you brought that up. If you know, you know. That's all I can.
If you know, you know.
That's all I could say. But no, absolutely. And they're the Alabama of the FCS. They're a dominant program in Division I AA. They play good teams in their non-conference schedule. They're not a prissy, football program. That's so stupid. And honestly, Carson Wentz came from there. And you have Cordell Volson, who he's actually going to return this year. A North Dakota offensive lineman I liked. Dylan Ray Dunes, literally coming from the same program, I can't.
Yeah.
Oh,
man. Joe Flacco played at the University of Delaware, nowhere near.
By the way,
not that Flacco's elite, but he won a Super Bowl.
remember, speaking of the devil, from North Dakota State, remember we were talking about Jabril Cox? Where did he go to school? Ooh, he didn't play against top competition, so he just magically became a prospect going to LSU. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. And what about if we're, since we're down this rabbit hole, I'm just going to keep going. The guy that you brought up, Miners, what the hell school does he play for? Whitewater or something? Like,
Yeah, University of somewhere
I
division. Like I work in Division 3, and I've never heard of that school. And like,
he plays for the Warhawks. Like, come on now. Like, you're gonna
yeah,
tell
those
me
are
a guy
some.
can't make it because of his level of competition? You're gonna tell me who went to Shippensburg? I forget. Like, there's a top player that went to
What's
Shippensburg.
what's his name on Tampa Bay? Like the Tampa Bay has an offensive line that went Division 3 and put it like Hobart, I think was his school's
Yeah,
name. Like it's just like,
Ali Marpet.
yeah, Marpet. Yeah.
Yeah, my friend played against him in high school.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you, you find talent where you find talent. Uh, I mean, Tyreek Hill, North Alabama. There's so many guys that just come out of nowhere. Oh,
Kurt Warner, the Iowa Barnstormers.
yeah, I mean, he played at Northern Iowa, but yeah, no,
He did.
absolutely. Well, here's another one: Colorado State Pueblo, Morgan Fox. Like, this
Yeah.
dude is a key piece on this defensive line, and they might bring him back. The Rams might bring him back again. This would be like his third contract he signed with the Rams.
Oh,
They
jeez.
got him from Colorado State Pueblo. So don't you tell me that these guys need to go to an Alabama or Georgia or a Clemson or an LSU. No, they don't. I mean, they don't. It's ridiculous. Where the hell did London Fletcher come from? Like, didn't he go to like, oh, it's like,
Oh,
Carroll? John Carroll?
Probably,
He went to
yeah.
John
Um,
Carroll. And then where did Cortland Finnegan go? Like, it's the, these obscure colleges. It's like, it's just, it cracks me up because it's like people act like, well, no one's ever done it before, and then you give them like, well, what about Steve McNair? The dude came from Alcorn State, went in the first round. Like,
Cortland Finnegan went to Samford.
okay, Sanford's, that's not
I mean,
out there. I mean, I've heard of that. Who went to Nichols College? There's like a huge. Well, I mean, like Deacon Jones. What did he go to? He went to Jackson State, or I don't remember. There are guys that went all over the place, and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I mean, the point is like you can find talent anywhere. It's about doing your research, putting in the work, and like and finding those diamonds. That's what the draft is about. And if it's finding somebody that went to some just outrageous Division 3 school, like
What about Lindenwood?
so
Pierre
be it. Like
Desir.
it's just yeah. I mean, you find talent where you find talent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Kevin White ended up transferring to West Virginia, but he beforehand he played at a community college.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. People need to stop, counting these players out. It always comes back to burn them. So
yeah, we're done with the moving tackles to guards and the low competition excuses. No more.
no more. And while we're writing this Constitution, no more of the going based on a guy's size, because again,
Yeah.
size is not a skill. Size is not a skill. Size is not a goddamn skill. Like,
Yeah.
it's that. I'm done. Like, okay, that's done. That can't be stressed enough.
Is that our pledge of allegiance? It's for the Constitution. Size is not a skill. Size is not a skill.
Size is not a goddamn skill. I'm
Yeah, that's
okay
right.
with that. I mean, I'm sure
All
some of
right.
the religious zealots will freak out that I said goddamn, but you know, yeah, if you
Hey.
guys listen to Shot by Nolan, my guy is telling everyone to smack the like button. We got 25 likes, but we have now we have 66 or 70. I can't even tell. I think we have 66 people in here. If every one of you 66 people, if you haven't already, smash that like button. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to follow Blaine I don't remember your ad.
Oh, it's at B Grisak. That's BGRISAK DTR. And be sure next week is gonna be crazy, and then we lead up to the draft is gonna be insane. Be sure to follow us on Downtown Rams. You got a lot of popping content coming out, so be sure to check it out.
Yeah, hey man, it's been a lot of fun. Glad we ended it on our little salute here, but
Yeah,
you know, uh, that's gonna do it for us. Oh, appreciate you, Green Substance. Appreciate you, AZZA. Damn, 2 donations in a row.
let's
Appreciate you
go.
guys so much. I love y'all. And if you guys, there's another one. Thank you. If you guys want to keep following my content, obviously subscribe. But I also special thing for you. I'm gonna go get a quick bite to eat because I haven't eaten all. Well, I have eaten today. I haven't eaten dinner yet. Geez, the donations are coming in flying. Thank you
I'm
guys. I
coming.
do appreciate it. So what we're gonna do, and Blaine, you're more than welcome to join in. Maybe get you on like an audio call or something. I'm going to be streaming gameplay. So it just keeps coming in. Holy hell. Uh appreciate you guys. So yeah. Damn. We got so much coming in. I don't know. All right. I think there's a glitch now. There's no way there's that many people donating. So
Maybe there
anyway,
is.
maybe there is, but I don't know. Um so yeah, we're gonna go live on this channel in a little bit. Blaine's gonna head out of here and we'll bring him back on. When do you want to come back on, Blaine? What do you think?
Let's do maybe a little bit before the draft.
Sounds good.
We'll do another one. Yeah.
We'll do that. So if you guys are interested, I'm gonna be going live. I don't know what game I'll play. Drop a comment and hit me up on what game I should play, and I'll do that. But I'm gonna be doing Ask Me Anything, so you guys tune into that. You have any questions, and I will answer them. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this. This has been the Jake Ellenbogen Live, featuring Blaine Grisak. We talked all about the state of the Rams, and now I will be going to get something to eat, and then I will be doing a live stream of gameplay. So keep it right here on this channel. I will be right back, you guys. And those of you who I'm losing, you guys take care. I'll see you on Saturday.